Hey there, Tundra Nation, and welcome back to the channel. With the tubes of you full of thumbnails about the impending ammo shortage, we can see the trend on the horizon, and it's going to be the resurgence of oddball calibers that nobody wants becoming the cheapest. It's time for these calibers to go head to head, so sit back, get out that mag loader, and let's start the show.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Before we dive in, I want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Double Black. Double Black's all American-made 416R stainless barrels are threaded half by 28 and button rifled at a 1 in 10 twist, so you can shoot cast, plated, or jacketed ammunition. They're ready to use with no hand fitting required, and a thread protector is included. Also sponsoring today's video is Vault Pro, proudly manufacturing the finest American-made safes, vault doors, safe rooms, and storm shelters. When you buy from Vault Pro, your safety, security, and privacy is their only priority. Vault Pro has never and will never release your information to another party, so go ahead and click the Vault Pro link in the doobly-doo for more info. First up, we have the 357 SIG versus the newest dead cartridge to hit the market, the 30 Super Carry. Sorry, Gun Jesus. The 357 SIG comes with positives and negatives. The positives being it's better than a 380, and the negatives being that it wanted to be the evolution of the 30 carbine round in a AMT auto mag. There was no real purpose for this thing when things like 9mm and 45 are so much more plentiful and have a long track record of being more than adequate. But for some reason, in the infinite wisdom of an R&D worker whose family's eyes get further apart with every generation, they decided that anything with a bottleneck has some sort of magic imbued upon it by a genie that was locked up for 15,000 years. In reality, you've added some extra snap to the recoil and have gone supersonic for those times when you need a really flat shooting round for those super long 7-yard engagements. And then there's 30 Super Carry, the product of generations of development and definitely not the work of somebody with a generous Adderall prescription and all the reloading tools at Federal's disposal. Combine this with the release of a pistol from the venerable name of Smith & Wesson in the same caliber, and it was sure to be a hit. And it was! It hit the wall and came to a dead stop and has not been heard from since. This solved exactly 0 problems that the average person who carries faces, and just made another proprietary set of standards to argue about the benefits of with the other nerds from your RuneScape guild. There's not enough frozen pizza in the world to get me to switch from a tried and true caliber to a new idea to generate revenue and have far less options for things like guns, mags, and carry rounds. Now, if I had to pick one to switch to during an ammo shortage, I would have to weigh out between the two which I would carry. Do I go with the mythical bottleneck round of choice of Jack Wilson, or do I give in to the very limited and short marketing blitz that was barely remembered? Well, the 357 SIG wins this one, folks, and might as well be the go-to caliber for pistols during an upcoming ammo shortage.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Now, we can't forget about our bolt action friends out there when talking about ammo shortages, because they hoard ammo way more than anybody else, even though they only shoot exactly 18.2 shots per year. So to include them, we're going to be putting up the 22-250 versus the 6mm ARC. The 22-250 is great for those that have low bone density and can't handle any more recoil than a light 22 round. This cartridge makes for some decent small and medium game hunting at ranges between 300 and 600 yards. With it having a faster muzzle speed than the typical 223, it shoots pretty flat, but it does lose kinetic power faster than a trailer park in a tornado. Up against the 22 on HGH, we have the 6mm ARC. Now, this round is the new hotness for ballistic performances in the 6mm world. Designed to surpass the infamous 6.5 Creedmoor, the ARC shed a few pounds to become more aerodynamic. This round is perfect for the guy that spends just as much time trading his gear with other shooters to try to have the latest and greatest everything rather than actually testing or training with any of said gear. 6mm ARC boasts about having more girth than the 22 rounds, but in reality it's about half of a millimeter, and that's really not impressing anybody, including your wife when Darren, her yoga instructor, is around.
That's a dang it.
Hey, speaking of increases, I want to give a big shout out to my good buddy Mark from the Fit and Fire YouTube channel. Now, this guy just reached 40,000 subscribers, and I remember when we were at that size not too long ago, and those milestones really meant a lot. So congrats to you, Mark, me boy, and everybody from the Tundra Nation. Go check out Fit and Fire on YouTube and let him know that we sent you over. All right, so let me get this straight. Between these two rifle rounds, my choices are basically a 22 that grew up in Africa running from lions and got fast, or a round designed to be the CrossFitter of its generation. While the 22-250 isn't as useless as the ATF, for example, I'm gonna go with the 6mm ARC on this one due to its ability to fit into many bolt guns as well as AR magazines.
Good job.
Up next, we have the fight that all the pistol nerds were hoping we would get to, the 10mm versus the 40 short and wimpy. To sum it up, well, they both suck. It's like those two brothers from your town that were dumber than the tissue that was designed to not wipe up Brogurt, and that is shockingly disgusting.
That's nasty.
Sure, they're strong, but for whatever reason, they got jobs as beggars at the local supermarket and spend all their free time moving logs all around their yard in order to achieve the right fengy shui. Did you mean feng shui? If you've been paying attention at all to ammo sales, you know that 410 has been hard to find for some time now. And while we would never recommend 410 for anything outside of filling with colored confetti for redneck gender reveals, it does make you wonder just a little bit, is the standard for scatterguns, the 12 gauge, next in line for a shortage? Well, if it was, you'd have to pick between 16 gauge or 10 gauge. 16 gauge is the choice for many bird hunters as well as clay shooters alike, but it's not as popular as it once was, and many contribute this to the decline in the reading of actual magazines due to the advent of the interwebs. No longer can FUD lore and grossly exaggerated stories of hunting trips be spread without at least being fact-checked by some nerd that spends more time on 4chan in a week than he does bathing in a year. But despite all of that, the shell is still around and used for many different applications, although lately it's pretty much been used just to shoot Bud Light cans. To quote the national treasure that is Clint Smith,
Pistols put holes in people. Rifles put holes through people. Shotguns at the right range with the right load will physically remove a chunk of shit off your opponent and throw that shit on the floor.
With that being said, the only thing more effective at that task than a 12 gauge is a 10 gauge. This is for the big boys that love recoil and use it as a show of their manliness. Never being in shape or having the charm to pick up any of the cheerleaders or even their less attractive friends destined you to have to prove your virility in other ways. And the 10 gauge was your answer. This is the equivalent of having a country club membership in a redneck community. If you hunt with one of these things, you're just showing the world that your only goal is to maim and kill in the most brutal of fashions possible. Now, I know that they can be used in a more ethical manner for hunting, but I'm not sure, honestly, that any of the users that use this particular shell are aware of that. And now for the decision of what to use for a scattergun during an ammunition shortage. Well, folks, I hate to say it, but it's neither once again. Get yourself a black powder blunderbuss milled right to your door and pack anything you want into it. I mean, wouldn't you agree it's time we get back to the age of raising black flags and wearing tri-corner hats? Plus, when it's time to actually use it, you get to use cool catchphrases like tally-ho or something about booty as you send shrapnel of whatever's loaded in the general direction of your target. Subscribe.